Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Thank you for joining me. A winter storm is working its way into the nation's capital after rolling out of the Rocky Mountains straight from the areas of Kansas right into the nation's capital. The heaviest of the snow is on its way to D.C. right now. We're going to have a complete update, including a look at the radar, and we're going to begin right there, right now. Here we go. All right, as you can see, most of the nation west of the Atlantic seaboard is fairly quiet at this particular hour. Little light snow moving through the Dakotas. Much of the energy from this storm moving now off of the coast of the Carolinas, and Virginia is working off into the mid-Atlantic states. But the highlight right here, right now, heading into the nation's capital, is where we have some of the heavier bands of snow working their way through as the thunder showers move off. There's Washington, D.C., Philadelphia getting involved, as is Long Island and New York, on the southern half of Pennsylvania, seeing the impacts of this storm as well. We're going to go over all of the conditions, the road reports, the snowfall amounts. We're also going to take a look at some other concerns with this particular system throughout the last couple of days, actually, as the power outages across the nation. If you're watching, I'm a meteorologist broadcasting in the Northern Plains for 30 years, and now I'm streaming for you. So if you do have a question, drop it in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, what are you seeing, and if you do have a specific question, I'd be happy to address it. Now, we still have some icing reports coming in as well. Let's get into the latest on the nation's capital right now as we zoom in toward Philadelphia and south towards Baltimore and Washington, D.C. See the heavier bands of snow right here in the darker blue shades? That's working its way off to the east. It's moving right into Washington, D.C. right now. From the west. We do have some areas of heavier snow as we get off to the west in the heavy, more mountainous terrain, but we do see Baltimore is going to pick up a fair amount of this energy as well as it works its way off to the east. Now, we do have, as we go up towards Philly, some snow showers pushing their way in, but really the hardest hit areas right now look to be from Culpeper through Warrenton and all the way into the nation's capital, and this will be, again, pushing into the Baltimore area. And speaking of Pennsylvania, all the way from basically Philadelphia through Harrisburg and on out towards the Pittsburgh area, we have some impacts from this particular storm system as it works its way off to the east. So that's what's going on. Now let's take a look at what's going on with regards to the power outages real quickly, because this storm has impacted some portions of the nation with at least hiccups in the power supply. Here are the states with the latest information. Again, as we take a look at these yellow colors here, there is at least 10,000 people without power still in the state of Missouri. We're looking at the impacts that hit the southern parts of Indiana and Illinois, as well as Kentucky, West Virginia in that yellow category. But look at Virginia, over 50,000 people without power in that particular area. So as we take you in just a little bit closer, we can see the impacts right now and where they are in the state. And really right along the central part of the state here, as we go through one county here with the orange, has 11,000 in Franklin County without power at this time. And again, cold air is going to be following this system on the heels into the backside. So losing power, not fun. And also, there's still some areas, skinny or tiny areas, that are still seeing the impacts from some freezing rain from this system. Okay, let's take a look at your road conditions right now. I've loaded up a couple of web pages for you here. We're going to look at Pennsylvania roads. We'll work our way right into the nation's capital here in just one moment. But as we take a look at the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation site here, what you're going to note is the southern half of the state saw the most impacts from this. So as we zoom in towards Pittsburgh, particularly at the southern part of the state here, notice that we have no red roads out here, so the road conditions are not too terribly bad as we go through. But when you look at these images, you can see the impact of the snow. In fact, some sticky, wet-looking snow out there in parts of western PA. Now, as we slide eastward and head in towards the area near, let's go towards Harrisburg as we go off to the east just a little bit. And we'll zoom in on the Harrisburg area here. That area also seeing the road conditions to be not too terrible, but we definitely see the impacts of some snow on the area roads right there at this time. And Philadelphia getting into the snow mix as well as this system worked its way off toward the east. There's Allentown. Let's go up to Allentown and show you there what's going on. And we do have just a little bit of snow on the side of the road in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And that's Pennsylvania in a nutshell right now. So some slippery roads there, but as you go south just a little bit farther into the state of, say, Virginia, let's go ahead and take a look at what we have going on here. Now, in the state of Virginia, most of the impacts now are pushing right in toward the nation's capital. So let's go take you in just a little bit closer to the north side. Now, as you see, the yellows here, what do those mean? mean? Well, if we look at the key, we're going to notice that the yellow areas are roads that do have travel impacts on them from areas that are being impacted by the roads. So we definitely have that. Now let's take a look at what's going on with regards to Washington, D.C., right outside of town, where the radar was looking a little bit more intense with regards to the echoes. And here is what's going on. We do have impacts on the roads, and the latest from this camera showing that, well, traffic is moving along pretty good on the west side of the DC metro area, just west of town there, and we do see that the snow is beginning to build up. The red roads are completely covered, and or some closures out there with travel impacts as this system works its way into and across Washington. Going into Arlington, as we zoom in just a little bit closer, let's take you right down. Let's go right up in here and see what we have going on the highway freeway out this way, and we do definitely see some light, wet, heavy snow working its way in. New York State picking up some snow, and there are some impacts in and around the western reaches of New York State as we look in those typical places that have really had some impacts from lake effect snow over the last couple of days. Check this out as we zoom in on the Rochester area here. Some impressive snowfall amounts, which we'll get to momentarily, but again, a lot of snow taking place up in the Rochester part of New York. Now you go down south towards Erie, PA, there's been some impacts there as well. As we take a look at some of the cameras, you can certainly see the roads amazingly cleared off by our DOT crews out there. But check out Long Island. All of the red here in pink means snow and ice on area roads of Long Island as we take a look at this area. So some slippery road conditions out there on Long Island. Typically the nice warm water body helps to keep things a little bit moderated, but not with this big old storm blasting its way through. And now as we take a look at the Belt Parkway here, things slowing down. That's not atypical, right? That's not too a standard for this time of the day. Out along the eastern seaboard. So this storm system is working its way out. Now let's check out some of the snowfall reports on and along the path, and there are still impacts in the nation's midsection. Here we go. Let's take a look at the snowflakes across the area. This is the accumulation of National Weather Service reports. You can just basically follow along the track of the snow. On the south side of this, by the way, there were icing reports with this particular system as well, as this system works its way from west to east throughout the last 24 hours, beginning in Kansas with some ridiculous snowfall amounts. By the way, the color of the dot here representative of the amounts of snow. So where we see the oranges, a foot of snow or more, where we see the reds, 18 inches or more of snow from this Colorado low, making its way through Salina, Kansas, Chapman, Kansas, here where I've got the highlight. That is 18 inches of fluffy flakes out there. Now, as you get into the KC area, it was ridiculous. How about a foot of crippling snow as we went through the last 24 hours in that area and on the backside of it, and things are improving with road conditions there. But believe me, there are still some issues. This storm system skirted all the way across the state of Missouri, the northern part of the state, up near Chillicothe, up near Kirksville, Missouri. We're seeing some 8 to 12 inch reports there as well. And then as you get into St. Louis, another batch of very healthy snowfall potential, amounts reported. How about 14.7 inches in Eola, up here on the northern side of the St. Louis area, right through St. Louis itself. It looks like the northern part of the metro here, seeing some of the more impactful snowfall amounts, upwards of a foot of snow, a couple of 12-inch reports right there just north of the river, basically on the Illinois side of the river. Speaking of Illinois, Springfield picking up healthy snow. Terre Haute out in Indiana, seeing it all the way out towards Cincinnati. So these reports here in the yellows and oranges showing that 1 foot band of snow worked its way right from Kansas, where we had 18 plus, right through St. Louis and Kansas City, and now off in towards areas of Cincinnati, Ohio, as it continued its trek across. Now, as we go into the area it is right now starting to impact, we already have some reports of a foot of snow as we get into Delaware. And up here, as we see 1 foot of snow reported in the Preston, Maryland area as well from this storm system. So literally from its beginning and onset, a foot of snow in Kansas, a foot of snow on the eastern seaboard. And look at these ridiculous amounts up in upstate New York, where you see the black here. Woo-hoo! I see 75 inches of snow. Oh my goodness. That's very, very tall amounts of snow. So 60 inches is what? That's 5 feet. So you add 12 to that, that's 72 inches. That's 6 feet. This is as tall as I am, 6'4" with snow. That's a lot of snow out there in upstate New York. I don't even know where you put it when it gets to be that much. Good luck to you. Hey, if you're traveling across the area, make sure that you know the very latest on your road reports as well. You can dial 511 or look it up online to know before you go. Really important this time of year. So along the path of this particular system, ice and snow out in the western reaches of the system where it first started are starting to be remediated. Some of those things are being handled and upgraded, and improvements to road conditions here. That is not the case out along the eastern seaboard as that system works its way through. Now, what's ahead? Check this out. As we look across the nation with regards to tonight, that cold air takes hold, moving all the way from the Dakotas where Hutch is. That's me. Right now, temperatures are down in the single digits below zero to teens below zero. Wind chills have been 30 to 45 degrees below zero here. That's ear-biting, face-slapping cold all across the northern plains, and it's heading into the Gulf Coast tonight. Woo, unbelievable. Check this out. Now, as we take a look at the national impacts, now colors you see here are National Weather Service watches, warnings, and advisories. And as you take a look at all the way from not far from Brownsville, Texas, all the way through Galveston, Houston, Louisiana, the southern portions of Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and central Florida, that blue, well, what is that? Well, let me tell you, Baton Rouge, right now, you are under the impacts of a cold weather advisory for tonight. Well, we're expecting some very dangerously cold weather. Now, not a lot of folks down in this stretch of the USA have prolonged periods of cold, but it's going to be cold overnight. So a couple of tips from the cold and frozen tundra of the north. You definitely do not want to do open burning inside your house to stay warm. Not a good idea whatsoever. So we do not want that at all. You want to get maybe everyone into an interior room. You might even put blankets on the door to keep the cold air out and the warmth in. You can do things like open cupboard doors that have running water along an outside wall. If you're worried about those freezing, by opening the cupboard doors and allowing some of the warmth inside the house to get to it, that can help spare those pipes. And you can gradually let the water run. You don't need to turn the water on full board. Nope. Just let it drip. If you let the water drip or run real slowly in a couple of these areas with outside walls, okay, where there might be a risk of some freezing pipes, just a little drip will help keep that water moving through the night, making it a little more difficult to freeze. Now look at some of these temperatures that we're looking at here. The cold weather advisory is for air temperatures that are going to be down in the 20s for much of these areas. Very cold temperatures and wind chills that'll be ridiculously cold. So please, if you're in the deep south, check on your neighbors. Don't burn inside. That is definitely not something that you want to do. Now, as we take a look up in the area of Florida, you see the purple counties here. This is where it's just downright dangerous. This is a freeze warning. So many of these areas here, northern parts of Florida up into South Carolina here, have a chance at some freezing weather. So you look up not far from Brunswick and Savannah. So Georgia, northern parts of Florida, seeing that impact from there. And some areas, even as far south as the Tampa area, just outside of the outskirts of Tampa, have this cold weather advisory in place as the deep south braces for some mighty cold weather. The brown colors you see here near Tampa, that's some wind concerns there. We have wind advisories. Here are winter weather advisories in blue for the mid-Atlantic states. The red are the winter storm warnings as we head to take you through. We do have some areas here near Tucson where we have a freeze watch in effect. That's right. The desert Southwest, a freeze watch in effect at areas south of the Phoenix area, not far from Tucson. The elevated terrain there helps that out a little bit. Winter weather advisories in the mountains of central Colorado for Denver. I am meteorologist Hutch Johnson. Hey, Tammy says, good, go Broncos. I was very excited to see that game last night, even though it was backups playing those Broncos. They have earned a spot in the playoffs and hope for the best for my team that I root for. And I hope your team has provided you with a lot of fun this year as well as we get ready for some playoff football. Speaking of playoff football, many people from the Northern Plains, we're talking Montana and North Dakota. So the Bobcats, the Montana State Bobcats from Kalispell, brought a ton of fans down to Frisco, Texas. And Fargo and the NDSU Bison are back in Frisco, Texas, on their way to try to win yet another national championship. The big game is tonight. It begins at 6 o'clock in 1 hour Central Time. They're playing in Frisco, Texas. So as we take you down to Texas, right down here, we're going to zoom right into the Dallas area on the northern side of the metro. There's Frisco. You won't believe the temperatures there. Allow me to show you what we have going on in the areas near Frisco. So let's take a look at our temperatures and pop them up here for you. And we'll show you that for all of those people that made the trip from Montana and North Dakota down to Texas, you're going to feel right at home as we take a look at the detailed display here. And let me, pardon me while I grab the closest radar site here to the area, and here we go. Okay, so essentially as we look in on the Dallas area, here's temperatures right now in Dallas. Air temperatures 39 degrees. It's 38 in the southern part of the metro, and up here a little bit closer to the Frisco area, see if we can find them. There we are. Frisco, we do have some temperatures not far from there of 38 degrees. Feels like temperatures are in the low 30s and 20s right now as wind chilly Texas is setting to host yet another national championship game. All right, that's a look at your weather. Tammy says, go Bison. Good to have you on board. Thanks for watching. I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I'd sure love to have you slam that subscribe button right here on my YouTube channel. And if you have not heard of me and you want to learn a little bit more, check out my website, hutchesweather.com. Anytime, anywhere, interactive radar. You can upload your photos of weather you're seeing across the nation. Please hit the follow button on Facebook as well. For now, have a wonderful Monday night. The storm is almost out of here, but not yet. So travel with care, and I will be back with updates. You're watching